It'll come up. Here we go. So it should show that we're live in the corner. Okay, so good afternoon, good morning even. Good morning even, Samee Charity, and welcome to our first live Samee With session. We're with Simon today, who's thankfully agreed to come and join us. We're just waiting for a few moments just to see who logs in and as we get going. And this session hopefully is going to be insightful. It's going to bring some information to you. It's going to show you what we're doing in terms of who we're working with, give you some background ideas and give you some stuff to take forward with your business. So that's the idea. And I can see we've now got a couple of people on with us. We're unable to take private posts in the actual group section, but what I will do is if you have any questions or any comments while we're doing this, I'll pop up an email address shortly that you can send your comments or questions through to us so we can hopefully get them answered as well. So I have a selection of questions. We're going to have a bit of a chat today and I'm going to interview Simon and get some of his experience and knowledge. But first, I thought it would be really nice just to hand over the floor to Simon and let him introduce himself and give you a bit of a background and a bit of history where he comes from with this high-flying career that we've discovered he has, and just share it with the group. So Simon, thank you very much, and over to you.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Ricky, and good morning to you and everybody listening. High flying is perhaps a good place to start because my very first proper job was actually building aircraft engines for Rolls-Royce. So I literally was in a semi-high flying job, although I didn't actually get to fly anything. I was working on the engines. But for those of you scared of flying, nothing I worked on is flying any longer. So they're all out of service now, so you're quite safe. And that was back in 1977, 78, so it's a long time ago. Following that, I decided that I didn't want to be in a factory the rest of my life, although I enjoyed the engineering. My dad was in sales. I thought, that's the job for me, company car, life on the road. So I'll get a job in sales selling engineering products. The problem I had was, of course, I had no sales experience. So every interview I went, they accepted I had the engineering knowledge and the product knowledge, but not the selling skills. So as many people have found over the years, how do you start in a career when you haven't got the experience in the first place? Because you need that first step. So finally, I saw a little advert in the local paper. I lived in Bristol at the time, saying trainee sales representative. It didn't say what for. I just applied for it. And I went for the interview and was still not quite sure what I was going to be doing, but they gave me the job. I was 20 years of age, 21, and they gave me the job, my first sales job, and it was actually selling toothbrushes to dentists. So roll forward 40 years, I'm still involved in the dental business. I'm no longer selling toothbrushes, I'm pleased to say, but I am still in sales. I consider when people say, what do you do? I say I'm a salesman. And although I've had lots of different jobs, I've been a salesperson for many different companies, mostly dental. I've been a sales manager. I then became a managing director of a business, then European sales and marketing director. I lived in America for 3 years. I've lived in Switzerland for a couple of years, and fortunately been paid to travel all over the world in sales. So I've had quite a nice varied life through sales. So I'm glad I left the factory back in 1980. And in the last 5 years, I have actually worked part-time for an engineering business, training their sales team and doing sales for them. So 40 years after I tried to get into engineering sales, I finally made it. So the clue there is never give up on your dream, because eventually you'll get there.
Happen.
Yeah, so I said I've been very lucky. I've worked hard, but I've traveled the world all around sales of products, sales of services, and now I work for myself doing sales training and sales coaching. So
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And we will find as well as we're going through, it does look like the comments are actually working. If you want us to know who is commenting though, you will just need to click on the live above. As you'll see, there's a little thing to say, yes, you accept StreamYard, which is the platform we're using to do this. I think there's one that says, hi kids. I got a funny feeling that might be our CEO coming in. And there's a couple of that says, "Hey, mum, I don't think that's daughter. I think that's one of our Samee customers as well." So yeah, so for those of you that want us to be able to see who is actually commenting, do pop, just click the little link to accept it on the top of this live in the group. So yeah, so that was a great introduction as well. Thank you, Simon. And you'll be pleased to know we have got some audience on as well. So we're not just talking to ourselves here, which is good.
Hopefully it's a friendly group.
Yeah, I think they are. So as a group, if you've got any questions that you want to ask, we're only on here for about 45 minutes today. But if you've got any questions you want to ask, pop them in the comments. We'll bring them up. If you have got something that we haven't answered, we'll try and answer that afterwards as well. So we are going to kick off then and have a look at these questions. So I think I try to look at, things that will help some of our customers with your experience with sales, branding, business, that kind of area. And I think the first question I would ask, and I'm hoping this is something that other people will want to hear as well, is from your experience, what are your 3 top tips for anyone selling their brand or product?
Really good question, Ricky. And just a quick note on brand. Brand is a whole series of different elements. So your logo is the signifier of your brand. So that's not your brand in itself. So if you see the golden arches of McDonald's, you know you're going to get burgers, salads, fries, etc. So your logo is only one part of your brand. The other parts, the other elements are you as a person and the way you behave, your product and service, and the way that you present that product and service, your marketing materials, your website, etc. And also, if you have employees, the way they present your brand and represent your brand. So all of those elements are your brand. So as an example, if you go into a really high-class restaurant, Michelin star, say, if you're lucky enough to go to a Michelin star restaurant, you may have amazing food, but the service is a bit stuffy and a bit, not relaxed. So you go away and say, well, the food was great, but I wouldn't recommend it because they weren't very friendly. Now, you could go to an ordinary high street chain restaurant and have a pizza, say, and again, the food's great. It's not high end, it's not low end, it's good, it's tasty, but the service was fantastic because the staff were great and they had fun with you and they understood you. So your view of that brand is not just about the food, it's about everything else. Was it comfortable? Was it relaxed? Did you enjoy it? And I would say if you go into the average high street restaurant and you have a great night because they were great fun, the food is secondary. You went out to be fed, yes, but also to have a nice evening, to have fun with your friends and family. So remember, your brand is all of that. And when you're running your own business, it's fundamentally important to remember the behaviors you show outwardly are a representation of your brand. So the language you use on your website, the language you use when you're with customers, all of that is part of your brand. So that's tip number 1. Remember, your brand is everything you do and say and how you appear. And I think certainly in the social media world, remember, if you're going to have go out on social media for your brand, try and keep it separate from your personal social media. They can be linked, but if you're going to do the political and your personal views, do that on your personal page. All of your business stuff should be representation of your brand and how you want to appear. So just keep the 2 separate. In terms of sales and sales tips, again, remember that the most important person in the sales process is the customer. Not because the old adage, the customer is always right. That's not actually true. Because obviously, if you're trying to sell them a service, you're trying to sell them something to improve what they do. So they're not always right because you're going to help them. But the way to really position your product can only be done when you've really done the research to understand your customer first. Who they are, what they do, who they are, again, personally, what's behind their brand, what are they trying to achieve, what do they want. Nothing matters about your product at this stage or your service. You must spend your time researching your potential customer and really digging into who they are and what they want and why you think your product fits them. Because if you can't decide why your product fits them, there's no way they're going to believe that your product fits them. And often, your product or service may not suit them. And you may come to that conclusion before you even approach them, which is good because then you're not wasting your time or theirs. So remember, perfect preparation prevents poor performance. So the more prepared you are before you even attempt to approach a client, a potential client, is really digging down and understanding who they are and what they might want. And doing a little exercise, it's saying, okay, let me put myself in their shoes. If I was in their position, I've looked at their website, I've looked at what they do, and I've spoken to some of their customers. This is where I think the gap is. Go through that exercise and see where if you were in their position, what would you be doing about it? Because then, once you've done that exercise, and one of Samee's clients, Ricky, that you and I have been working with recently, we got them to do that little exercise about I am, but because this is how it makes me feel from the customer's perspective. Remember, that particular client, we won't say who they are, but did it really well for 3 different areas of their business. Now they're in their customer space.
Yeah.
So now they can plan the questions they're going to go and ask that customer, potential customer, about how they feel. So we put ourselves in the customer's position and we think we know how they feel. We've tried to understand it, but now we can plan some questions to go and find out really how they feel.
Yeah.
So the 2 fundamental principles of good selling are: 1, do your research; 3 principles. 3, plan your questions. And 2, and then 3, actually just focus on good questions.
Yeah.
So open questions 80% of the time: how, what, why, where, when, and who. But from the customer's perspective, focus on the how and the what questions. How does your business work? What would you like to improve about your business? How could we possibly help you? What's the one thing you would do if you had the money for it? Focus, because those are all about them. Really understand your customer before you even talk about products and services. You have to ask lots of open questions about them and make sure you are genuinely interested in the other person, and then those questions will flow. So plan good questions, practice asking open questions, do your research on the potential client.
Excellent. And I think to everyone in the group that's watching at the moment, if you're getting value, pop some comments down to let us know that you're getting value. If you've got any questions that come up, do pop them in the comments, because we can bring them up and we can see them and we can try and answer as we go along. But thank you, Simon. I think that kind of definitely some great tips there for people to take forward. And I know as we've been...
Sorry, Ricky, go on.
Go on. No, I was just going to say, as we've been working with the customer you were talking about, seeing the clarity that's been moving forward has been brilliant.
Can I just pick up on a word you use then, Ricky, in terms of our delegate today about value? As you said, if you're finding value in this, please ask a question. And that's important, because you're right, Ricky, value is personal. You and I have no idea whether what we're talking about today has any value to anybody else that's listening. We'll only know that if they then come in and join in and say, actually, that was a good point, can we follow on that?
Yeah. And I think
value is personal. Remember that, when you're looking at your customers, what do they value? No matter what we value, what does our customer value?
Absolutely. And someone's already said at the moment they've not accepted StreamYard, so they're being mysterious, but they said they love the bit about the open questions. So it's showing us that, we're getting some value. So anything that you're finding great or any questions, bring it in and let us know. But I think
I have a feeling, Ricky, that all those people are family and friends of ours. I'm not sure there's any new clients on there.
Possibly, you never know. Let's pick
up on the open questions things again. For those of you who want to practice it, and you do need to practice it, because asking open questions is only first nature to children, because as soon as they learn to speak, they ask why. Why is the world round? Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? And they ask, how does that work? Because children are predominantly curious. That's how they learn. As adults, then we send children to school, and the teacher says, before you ask a question, I want you to put your hand up. So the kid goes, I'm not doing that. I might look stupid. And then, so as adults, we then become insecure about asking open questions because we don't want to appear nosy. But actually, as business people, we need to be children. And I know Sam's going to say in a minute, well, you and Ricky fit that mold very well. You've got the
Definitely.
oldest and youngest children in the business. Um, but be a curious child when you're dealing with your customers, because how, what, why, where, when, and who are the curious questions. And if you want to get that logged in your mind, if you've got a computer, Google or whatever search engine you prefer, um, The Elephant's Child by Rudyard Kipling.
Yeah.
Because the opening of that poem is, I keep 6 honest serving men, they taught me all I knew, their names are how and what and why, where and when and who. So it's a long poem, but that's the opening paragraph. So just Google The Elephant's Child, poem by Rudyard Kipling, or Rudyard Cycling, as I used to call him as a child. So Google The Elephant's Child, print it out, stick it on your wall, and just focus on that opening paragraph, because those are the questions that make you a curious child.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And I think I'm having a look down there. I've got it in the corner, obviously on muted because there's a slight delay with sound, and we don't want to have that echo for us. But yeah, I can see some of the people that comment, and we have got Samee customers on
Yeah,
there as well as family and friends, so we're doing okay. Some of them have not identified themselves, so obviously I can't say who's
Miss
on there,
Stanley
but
has now,
oh
though.
no, someone has identified themselves. Lorraine is watching. Hi, Lorraine. Hope you're doing well. And she says, definitely in touch with your inner child, you two, but we love it. So, so I think we're doing something right
It's
there,
just
which
who
is
we
good.
are, Lorraine. But again, just on a serious note, again, if you're going to go into business and you're going to start approaching clients, don't try to be somebody you're not. Be yourself. Yes, I said, be aware of how you approach yourself or how you put yourself out there, because you are your brand. But don't try and be somebody else, because
Yeah.
people will see right through it. And I know, I'll give you a little example. When I was my first 2 sales jobs, I had no sales training really. And in my second sales job, I was given a little bit of sales training. So I thought, now I know what I'm doing. And I was selling to dentists at the time. And I went into this one dental practice, and there was a little hole in the wall in the reception area with the receptionist behind it. And remember, she's not expecting me. I'm a total interruption to her day. So I go up to the window and politely say, my name's Simon. I'm from Oral-B Toothbrushes. Would there be any possibility of having a discussion with one of your dentists? And she says, just a minute, I'll go and ask. And I'm thinking, great, I'm in. She's accepted. She was polite. Anyway, through a door in the wall comes one of the dentists. And he put his arm in mine. Remember, I'm in the waiting room. There's a room full of people waiting to see the dentist. He puts his arm in mine and he whispered in my ear, I'd really rather you didn't come in here without an appointment. My sales training kicked in and I said, oh, that's very interesting. What makes you say that? Open question. And he said, I can't say what he actually said, but he said, because I don't want you to. And he marched me out of the door and shut the door behind me. So I'm now stood outside in the rain,
Yeah.
a bit uncertain about what's happened, because I've just used my sales training skills. Why has he thrown
Yeah.
me out? I hadn't realised. He had no interest in me being there. I hadn't offered him anything other than, I want to see you. What's in
Yeah.
it for him? I hadn't
Yeah.
planned, I hadn't thought about it. And just
Yeah.
to add insult to injury, as I went up the steps out of the building, there was an iron railing, a handrail, which went into the pocket of my suit jacket and ripped it. So that was my day over. It was wet. I'd ripped
Oh,
the suit. I'd been thrown out. I went home. So be careful that
yeah.
you plan your questions in terms of them, not you. So it doesn't always work. Remember, you are going to get kicked out sometimes. So
Definitely, and I think also be careful of iron railings.
yes,
I think we've all come a cropper on iron railings from time to time.
exactly. The big thing about sales conversations is you've got one of these and 2 of those. So listen twice as much as you speak, which I find very
Mm,
difficult, as you'll know, and Sam knows. But be very careful. The thing to do is just ask one really good question and then shut up. One good question is about them, get them talking, and once you've got them talking, your next question should be about the answer they've given you. So you develop a conversation just by that. The most difficult question you'll ever have to ask a customer is the first question. If it's a
yeah,
good one, they'll open up, and then you can build a conversation with them about them and their business and what they're looking for. because you have no idea whether your product or service is going to match them, really. You might think it does, but you don't know for sure until you understand what they want,
Mm.
what they value, and what they're looking for in the future.
Yeah. And I think that brings us kind of talking about processes and talking about, planning and things like that. I think that brings us quite nicely to another question that we've asked, and that has been asked is, what is the best sales process to use? So what do you find is the best sales process to use?
Again, a really good question, Ricky. I look at it as a stepped process leading up to the top of a triangle. Yeah. So the very bottom of that triangle, the base, or a pyramid. Think of a pyramid. So it's got a very broad base. So that broad base should be all about your planning. So as I said earlier, do your research, find out as much as you can about the potential customer as is out there on the internet or available. Ask other people. Do the little exercise we did with our colleagues recently. Put your head in the customer's shoes and try and work out how they might be feeling, what they might be looking for. So that's your plan. Part of your plan is obviously what you do. That's obvious, what your products or service is. That's part of
Mm.
your plan. Your why, your mission, your vision for your business. That's part of your plan. But the next stage of that plan is, okay, who do I approach and how do I approach them? And that all those planning exercises. The next section of the pyramid, which is the biggest bit you should focus on, is that understanding the customer bit. So really digging down and understanding what they value, what they want. So that's
Mm.
step two. So step one is planning. Step two is understanding the customer themselves. So going through, you're going to have to do some cold calling and some marketing and some mail shotting and stuff. But if you get a customer saying, yes, I will have a conversation with you, then your planning really kicks in because that's your golden opportunity to ask your questions and really uncover everything about them you possibly can that they're willing to give. Now, some
Mm.
customers will talk a lot, some won't talk very much. But the power of open questions is if you ask the right questions, because you've done your planning and your research, they're more likely to open up.
Yeah.
So now we understand the customer. If in that conversation we found out that there is a potential gap for your product or service, because you know what the customer wants, you can now take all the features and advantages of your product or service and apply the bits of it that apply to the customer into a presentation of your product or service. So that's the next part of the triangle.
Mm.
We're almost at the top now. So let me give you an example of that. If I want to buy a new car, let's say I decide to buy a Ford of some sort. So I go to a Ford dealer. Now, the salesperson is really lucky today because I've walked into their showroom and I've decided I'm going to buy a Ford, and that salesperson is working for Ford. So already he's on a win, isn't he?
Yeah.
But the fact is, if you analyze the Ford catalog, there's probably 500,000 different combinations of vehicle you could put together with the Ford badge on it. So the salesman's got an interested client, so that's easy. But now their job is to understand what specifically I want. So the simple questions are, okay, Simon, thanks for coming to see us today. Have a cup of coffee, let's sit down. Now, what type of car do you want? Well, I want a family car. Okay. How many doors do you want? I want 5. Okay. What else are you going to use it for? Well, I've got to carry samples for my job, so I want an estate car with a big boot and an easy access door. Okay. What color do you want? Oh, anything as long as it's not black. Okay. So what do you want most, economy or speed? Oh, I want economy. Okay. What else do you want the vehicle to have? Well, I want leather seats, a CD player, and a connection for my iPod. Oh, and I want a roof rack for my bicycle. So we haven't talked about a specific, a Ford Focus or a Ford Mondeo or whatever else they make. We've talked about the specification now.
Mm.
So now the salesman says, right, we've got a car just like that for you. And we haven't talked about money or anything else. So let's focus on all of our estate models. Let's focus on the ones that are the most fuel efficient. They all come in any color, including black, so you can choose your color. But these specifically will take a roof rack, and they can have leather seats, and they can have the other things. Do you see what I mean? So I'm now presenting my product directly to the customer's requirements.
Yeah.
So what's the customer got to say now? Yes, that's what I want. Now the question is, I want that. How much is it? How am I going to pay for it? All the other stuff that we need to negotiate the deal. But because we've listened to the customer, we've understood what we want, we've presented our product or service to meet their requirements. So the only answer now is yes, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we go into negotiation about the deal. So the steps are planning, big section on questions about them, present your product and service according to what they said they wanted, and then at the very top of the triangle, little tiny, yes, that's what I'm looking for. That's
Yeah.
not a sale. That's an agreement that you can provide what I'm looking for. Now the sale comes in terms of let's negotiate the final deal. So that's the sales process. The
Yeah.
two biggest parts of that pyramid are planning. Number one, the base, the foundation. Number two, the understanding the client. Remembering my mantra that the world's best salesperson is the customer.
Yeah.
Now it's easy when it's cars, shiny jewelry, watches, holidays, because the customer already wants what you sell. That's easy. When you've got a
Yeah.
product
Yeah.
or service, rather like I have, sales training, nobody wants it. They need it, but they don't want it. So when somebody needs what you've got, it's all about the money, isn't it? It's about, well,
Yeah.
I'm not willing to spend that much. So you have to work even harder when it's a product or
Mm.
service nobody really wants, but they
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's the process. The process is the same, whether it's a want or a need. I said, working in a jewelry shop or a car showroom or an estate agent should be easy because your customers are coming to you saying, I want one of those. I just don't know which one I want yet or how much I'm willing to pay. But for
Absolutely.
me, nobody's coming to me saying, well, very rarely do they come and say, we want some sales training and we're willing to spend whatever it takes to get good at it. So I
Yeah.
have to work harder at finding clients because I'm offering something that they really need, but they don't necessarily want. So.
Yeah, and I think talking about holidays, it kind of takes me back to when I was working in travel, and it was that was one of the advantage I liked about it. I called it the lazy sales because you placed yourself where someone wanted something, so you already had half the battle that we won. But when they would come in, you would say, "Oh, how can I help you today? What have you come in for?" Well, I've come in for a holiday. It's like definitely come to the right place. Then that's good, So yeah, it's half that battle, but.
There's some good
Lorraine,
questions there from Lorraine, actually, Ricky, that we need to cover. Definitely the bit about money and the bit about the
yeah,
survey.
I was
So,
thinking about the good
short answer
idea
to
about
that,
the short
Lorraine.
survey.
Yeah, yes, do it. Any way to gather intelligence. So, short surveys, speaking to customers when you're just in a networking event or potential, having a coffee and a conversation with somebody that's in that field already. Yeah, all of that is correct. The more intelligence you can gather over time, the more you'll be able to get yourself in the headspace of other customers. Because
Yeah,
remember, if you meet 50 customers, all of them have got at least one thing in common, probably. They'll all have slightly different needs, but if they're in your marketplace, there'll be a lot of commonality. So doing a
yeah,
survey, either online, great, or if you can phone people and get some information, yes, definitely do that.
yeah.
And the next
And I
one is about
think
price, I think, so.
the other one she said about she still finds it hard to start the money bit of the conversation. Any tips?
Yes. Um, Number one, Lorraine, you're not alone. Money is very personal. And actually, Lorraine, you know this better than any of us because you're working in an incredibly personal environment. You have to get really down and personal with people. And actually, again, you'll know as well as I do, people will often talk more about their physical personal problems than they will about money. Money is incredibly personal. I'm the sort of person, if I go into a shop or a garage to pay for something with my credit card and it comes back and says it's declined, I go, oh, I haven't paid the bill. Here's another one. But a lot of people would be mortified by that if they were turned down because money is incredibly personal. So that's why we all find it difficult to talk about. But please go back to the bit I said right at the beginning. Value is personal. So if you follow my step process, i.e. you really understand the client from their perspective first, when you present your product or service directly in line with what they said, the value of your product or service goes up in their mind. Now, their value and your value still might be different, but ultimately you have to stick to what you value your business services or products at. My rule is no discounts. So if you've decided your product or service is worth £500, say, if you've gone through the right process in terms of understanding the client and presenting your product or service to their needs, when they say, yes, I want it, their next question is going to be, how much? So you don't need to bring up the money conversation because they're going to do it. If you've done the process right, you don't have to always keep money to one side unless they ask.
Mm.
So if they ask the money straight away, you've got to answer them straight away. Don't hide, don't divert from money. unless you've got a range of products and services. You might say, well, actually, our services range from £500 to £50,000. However, before we give you an exact quote, can I ask you a few questions so you take control back? But if you've done the process right, when it comes to, yes, I want your service, Lorraine, however, what I'm concerned about is how much do you charge? Then you have to say with confidence, right, for what you need now, Ricky, it's going to be £500. How does that sound? And then shut up. So the money, don't talk about money unless they ask. And if you do the process right, they'll only ask about it when they said, yeah, I really like that, I want it, but how much is it? And then I said, don't shy away from it. My service for what you want is £500. And wait till the customer speaks. Do not say anything else. Say it with confidence, because if you say £500 with confidence, they believe, you believe it's good value for money. So your value goes up again. If you say, well, normally I would charge for you it's 350, you've just given away £150 for no reason. Because actually you might say it's £500 and they go, oh, that's cheap, that's better than I expected, I'll have two. They might not, but as I said, if you've done the process right, you've gone up the pyramid with planning, questions, understanding customer, present according to customers' needs and wants. Shall we go ahead? Yes, I'd love to, but how much do you charge? Thank you, Lorraine.
Lorraine is saying she likes it, so
that's the process. That's the process. It takes practice, but if you really follow the process, the money will come at the end.
Apparently, we're talking intelligence.
Oh, somebody's not listening properly. If we're talking intelligence, Ricky. Thank you, whoever said that.
I think that might be the boss.
Yeah, I think it's probably the boss. We've got a mole in the hole here. I think, Ricky. But as I said, if somebody says right at the beginning of the conversation, Simon, I don't want to go any further with this until you tell me what you charge. Now, I charge again a range of fees depending on what I'm offering. So I say, okay, that's fine. So on average, my fees are between £250 and £25,000, depending on what you want. But right now, Ricky, I can't tell you what I'm going to charge you because I don't understand enough about you. So if it's okay, if that's in the ballpark that you're comfortable with, may I continue to ask you some questions to really understand what you need? I'll then do my best to present you an offer that is in line with what you need. And ultimately, you can then decide whether it's value to you or not. Would that be okay? Remember, in a sales conversation, the one asking the questions is the one in control of the dialogue. So you need to be careful how you ask the questions, and you need to answer your customers' questions. But the thing about money, I said, is if they ask, don't divert it, answer immediately, and try and give a range.
Yeah.
If you've done the process really well, the money will only come up when they say, do you know what, I'd love to work with you, but I'm not sure I can afford it. How much is it going to cost me? And then you just say, well, for you, Ricky, it would be 500, but for you, it's £750. So.
Going up.
Do you know what I mean? If you've done the process right, the money will come up. Let them tell you when the money should come up. Don't be frightened about it. Hold your price, and if you're thinking 500, say 500.
Yeah.
And don't then say, but for you, I'll do a 10% discount because I like you. You don't need to.
Yeah.
Value is personal. If you've done it right and they value what you're offering, they'll stick to it. So.
Yeah. Brilliant. So I think just moving on from that, I think that there are a lot of questions that we can ask, and we've got a lot of questions in that we can ask. But I think one thing that might be good for a lot of our people that are watching is they're new, or they're just starting up, or they've just got started. So for you, what would you advise would be the 4 most important things that someone should focus on when starting their own business or working for themselves? What 4 things are their priority?
Rule number 1, believe in yourself. Yeah. Obviously, ask friends and family what they think about what you're planning, but generally, friends and family will tell you the positive things. So you also need to ask some other people. Speak to Ricky, speak to Sam, speak to me if you want. If you want an honest answer, so get other advice as well. I said speak to friends and family, but they'll just tell you everything's great, probably because they love you and they want to encourage you, and that's good. but you also need some, straight advice as well. So go somewhere else and get some other advice. But fundamentally, if you really believe it's a valuable service or product, go for it. And that's step 2. Don't procrastinate any longer. You can talk about it for a long time, but if you don't actually get off your butt and do it, it's never going to happen. So give it a go, because the worst thing you're going to do is fail. Well, you'll learn from
Yeah.
that. Just like
Yeah.
those of us who learned to ride bikes when we were kids. We got on, we fell off. We got on, we fell off. And I've been cycling now for 58 years, and I still fall off because I forget to unclip my feet from the pedals when I stop. So, you're always going to fall off, but, it's the old adage, if you don't make a few mistakes and fail a few times, you're not actually learning. So just have a go at it. There's no shame in failing. There's absolutely no shame. But if you didn't try it, you're never going to know, are you?
No.
So give it a go is the other thing. And I said, just the step number 3 is keep your eyes wide open. Yes, you can get lots of advice, and some of it might conflict with other advice. So be careful how much advice you take. It's your product or service. If you believe in it, just keep your eyes open. Don't see competition as a threat. Look at the competition, see what they're doing, and say, okay, well, that's okay, but I think I'm doing it better, or that's okay, but I prefer to do it this way. Don't be frightened by competition. Go and seek out competition. Join a networking group where there are competitors in the room, because you'll all learn from each other. Sometimes a client will prefer to work with you than work with your competitor just because they prefer you. Business is personal, like value is personal. So, there are millions of sales trainers in the world. Some will like working with me because I do the same stuff but in my way. And some will like working with my competitors because they do the same stuff but in their way. So keep your eyes wide open. So think about it, plan it, prepare it, believe in it, do it, seek advice and get input, do it, and then keep your eyes wide open would be, with any small business, keep your eyes open and look at what everybody else is doing. Not because you think, oh, I'm not as good as them. You are. Look at what they're doing and say, okay, that's fine, but I prefer to do it this way. Or, oh, that's a good idea. I could maybe combine that into what I'm doing. And I said, never stop asking questions or doing surveys, as Lorraine suggested, about existing customers, non-customers. Seek information wherever you can. And now, today, with the internet, it's so much easier to search out potential customers, because you can do an awful lot of research from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's frightened to ask some customers. And there's a, when I was taught sales back in the 80s, there was lots of techniques and tricks that you were taught. And one of them was around closing the deal, and it was the lost sale close. I don't like the phrase, but actually, I still ask this question every time. If somebody says, look, I'm not going to go ahead with you, you say, fine, fully understand, accept your reasons. However, can I just ask, what could I have done differently? Or what was the reason you didn't go ahead with me? Just ask that one extra question, because if nothing else, you'll get some good feedback about what you did. Often they'll say, well, no, I'm just not going ahead at all. I'm not choosing a competitor. I'm just not going ahead at the moment. Or they might say, well, actually, if you'd only done this differently, I might have chosen you. And then you might not convince them to come back to you, but at least you've learned from it. So always, always, always ask that one final question. What could I have done differently to have won your business? Or what could we do differently next time if we've got the opportunity? Don't be put off by a no. Rejection is not going to kill you. It might hurt. I still feel hurt when I get rejected by customers. I'm rejected totally by my friends and family, but that's normal. But when I'm rejected by customers, I still feel it, but you learn by it. And when I do a training workshop, of course, the only thing I focus on at the end is the negative feedback, because I want to learn from that. So.
Yeah, and I think that's actually brought us on to a nice question that someone's asked, is how do you maintain the line between customers and friends?
I don't think there's a difference, quite frankly, because if you've done a really good job, in the dental world, I've got thousands of people I have done business with over the years. But I've also got a good number of those that are now actually friends. So I can go and stay at their house. I can go on holiday with them, or some of them have offered me their holiday homes as to use either free or a discounted rate. So I don't think there is a difference. Obviously, what you don't want is that friend. The thing about friendships is only going to get spoilt by money, because we all know that we've fallen out with friends and family over money, because we've lent our brother 50 quid and you never got it back, or you've lent your auntie you've borrowed £50 from your auntie and you've never paid it back, so she's not speaking to you anymore, all that kind of stuff. So the only problem with friends and customers as friends is money. Do not let it detract from the value of the service you offer. So as soon as somebody who was a customer becomes a friend, starts asking for favors, they're no longer a customer or a friend, because they're using that relationship to get to their advantage, not yours.
Yeah.
Genuine customers and genuine friends will pay you for your service like anybody else. Now, I'm not saying you don't give them extra time or you don't have more coffee with them, whatever it might be, because they've become friends. Naturally, when I go to Greece a lot and meet customers over there, and they've become friends. So I might pay for dinner one night, they might pay the following night. Doesn't matter, there's a little bit of reciprocation. But so there's nothing wrong if you've really done a good job. I said I'm very happy to call a lot of my customers friends. But there is a line. The only line is the money. My brother has his own business, and I was working for him for a while, and he offered me a share of his business. So I said no, because we're brothers, we get on really well, and I'm not going to fall out over money. If you're going to pay me a daily rate for working for you, that's a business relationship. But I will not let it cross over with my personal relationship with you.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to join your business. You can pay me as a service, which he did. Because again, if we start getting into business together, we could break our relationship because of money, and I don't want that to happen. So be careful. So if you don't want it to happen because you're worried about the money, then don't get too close. But you can. I don't see a problem with being close to customers, except when it comes to.
Yeah, and I think it's natural for it to kind of go down that line of customers becoming friends in some ways, isn't it? Because you're naturally as that salesperson, you're building that relationship, you're building that rapport, so you are going to start to build that understanding of that person and build that closeness and find out about people.
I hope Lorraine won't mind me saying this, but again, looking at her business model, as that grows, some of those clients that you'll gain that you're going to teach and train, because of what you're doing, you're going to get really close to them. They're going to open up to you because you're helping them deliver, get better at delivering a very personal service. So you are going to get close to them. They're going to become friends. So it's going to happen naturally. Just don't let it affect what you charge, and don't discount, don't give away. You'll always give a friend a little bit extra, so more time, whatever it might be. But just be aware of that, because you don't want it to spoil either the friendship or the business relationship. And the thing that will spoil both of those things is the money. So just be cautious, I would say. But don't be frightened to let it happen. I'm very proud to call a lot of my customers friends.
Yeah. And I think just if anyone's coming part way through and they're listening, feel free to add the comments, let us know how it's going, what you're picking up, tips, value, things like that. And any questions that you might have thought of, feel free to add them into the comments and we can bring them up and we can chat. You can remain anonymous, or you can actually click the link up the top and show who you are. Either is fine, but we're happy to take some questions. But just one thing that I think that come up is always about where can people go to get further direction. And I think good question to ask at this stage is, what books or training would you recommend and why? Is there a couple of particular things that you would recommend and why for people as they're starting out on their journey, or as they want to grow and develop?
Definitely. I mean, there's a million books out there in terms of sales, and avoid every one of them that promises you a quick fix, because there's no such thing. I have a wealth of material which I'm willing to share for free for any of your clients, Ricky, that want it. So read a lot. Book number one to read is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It was written in 1936. It's quite old-fashioned, but it still applies today. So it's been updated, but it is quite old-fashioned. But number one book is that. Number two book is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Again, he'll make you do some really, he's passed away now, by the way, but the book's still available. But Stephen makes you do in habit 2, which is think with the end in mind, makes you do a very deeply emotional exercise. I recommend to everybody starting a business, and not just for the business, but for your personal life as well. Book number 3 would be Start With Why, Simon Sinek, Ricky and I's best friend. Follow Bernadette Jiwa, Jiwa. Sign up to her blog called thestoryoftelling.com, because she's a genius about getting into the customer's headspace. She's got lots of tips about how to really understand your customer. So yeah, I would say those. And my recent book, if you want to learn how to negotiate, is Never Split the Difference, by Chris Voss, Voss. He was a terrorist hostage negotiator, so he got hostages out of terrorist hands during the Iran-Iraq war and the Iraq war and the Afghanistan war. So he's a smart cookie too in terms of negotiations. But go read How to Win Friends and Influence People. Got to read 7 Habits and got to read Simon Sinek. And you must sign up with Bernadette's storyoftelling.com blog, because she'll fill your inbox with little golden nuggets of just ideas to think about how you can get in front of your customer, get ahead of them, get to know them.
Yeah, yeah. And we're also getting there's a couple of things that are coming up that's saying about becoming a member of the IOEE, which could be beneficial. They offer training in entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
and training, and that's at the IOEE.uk as well. So that can be done. And Lorraine has said, fire away, no problems mentioning our name. So she was happy with that. So that's good.
And Lorraine's come up with a meme for the 4 I ams. Yes, please, Lorraine, if you can share that. And if you're willing to share what you've done, I think that's very powerful, what you've done with for your business. And I think a lot of the people on here could probably learn from that. And Ricky and I are always open to helping anybody that's in this group to go through some of those processes, as we've done with Lorraine recently. So.
Absolutely. And I think just one final thing to finish off. I know there are other questions that we haven't covered today. We can leave for another time. But I think just to finish off, I think it would be, if you were advising your younger self starting out, knowing what you know now, what would you say and how would you advise him to stay on track?
Listen more. Ask better questions and listen to the answers more deeply is what I mean, Ricky.
Yeah.
To friends, family, and customers, and I still struggle with that now. We all ask questions really just to, show we're smart.
Yeah.
Actually, asking, as I said, the most difficult question you'll ever have to ask anybody is the first question. If that's a good one, you listen to the answer, the conversation will build. I wish I'd read How to Win Friends and Influence People earlier, because again, the theories that Dale Carnegie talked about are everything I've just said. Really showing genuine interest in the other person is the key to your business success. So think of them, not you. So asking good questions and listening deeply to the answers. And then the next tip is asking another question that digs just a little bit deeper to get a bit more out. Because the average salesperson asks a question and then gets an answer and then asks another question. The real skill is asking a good question, hearing the answer, and asking another question to dig a bit further. That's the key to success in any relationship, but also particularly in sales. So when you give me an answer and I say, that's really interesting, Ricky. What makes you feel that way, or what else would you do, or that's a great question actually. When you've got an answer, it's just, and what else?
Yeah.
And just to let them talk a bit more, to try and get them to open up a bit further. So.
Yeah, and I like the thing about using where you were saying about how do you feel as well, because one thing that I've picked up and heard people, and Simon Sinek talks about it, funnily enough, is that people buy with feeling. So rather than saying what do you think or how do you think, asking them how they feel, because when they think, they analyze it. You want them feeling.
Exactly that. I developed a questionnaire a few years ago with a colleague of mine for dental clinicians to ask their patients. And we had these scales at the bottom that said, rate your dental health and rate the way, rate what you think your smile looks like. And I changed that. After reading Simon Sinek, I changed those questions to, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about your dental health? And the other one was on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about the way your teeth look? So just putting that feel word in completely changed the dynamic of the question. It's much more personal now and intimate about the patient. Now, dentistry is personal and intimate, so you want to get that to that deeply emotional level. But you're right, yes, we know that chemically decisions get made up here, but how often do we all say, well, it felt right? And you put your hand on your stomach because your gut feeling is often right. We know it's a chemical action up here, but it feels like it's here, doesn't it? And that feeling in your heart when something's either wrong or right, is actually telling your brain, and those decisions are the most powerful ones. So if somebody is making a decision based on their emotions, you've really got to them. Now, I said buying a diamond engagement ring is a really emotional decision because it's about a life change. Buying a sales training course is not exciting. It's not emotional. But what's emotional about learning to sell? Well, I might have better relationship. I might make more money. My business might be more successful. I will therefore feel more proud of myself. I will therefore feel more confident. So, but we have to work much harder when it's a product or service they don't really want, because it's not just about the price. It's about, well, where's the emotional connection? So by asking the feel questions, and what else, and how would that make, if you were able to be better at sales, Ricky, how would it make you feel? Oh, it'd be great because, I'd probably have a better income. I could give my family a better lifestyle. I could feel more secure. I could pay my bills. So there is an emotional connection, but you won't say it unless I ask you to say it. You're not going to give me that. So I have to be prepared to ask those emotional digging questions. And that's difficult because we're British and we don't like to pry, so we don't like to dig. So asking you, how many children you got or where you live or what car you drive is quite easy. They're facts. Asking you how you feel about your lifestyle or what would improve your lifestyle or how would you feel if you could make more money is harder to ask. Now I can ask you because I know you. But if we'd never met, you might think, oh, why is he asking me that? So you have to build up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I ask better. If going back to my younger self, learn to ask better questions and learn to listen better to the answers, because your next question should be based on that answer.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Well, I think people have got a lot of value out for it. We still have an audience, so we've kept their attention, which is great. And I think this
Boss
has
has
got
gone quiet, so
really,
we have
really
done
well.
something right.
She did say she is watching, so
I know. She's always watching. I think she's got a bug in my house, actually.
yeah. So I think it's been really good. So thank you ever so much for joining me for this session. And if people watching this on replay, they can send some questions through to our email address. So I'll just pop that up there. So you've got wivesproject.education@outlook.com. They can always send some questions through. Boss is happy. That's always good, as long as the boss is happy.
She must be drinking wine.
And I think this has been really good, so we'll try and do some more of these sessions as
Anytime.
well, and share with people with expertise, and we might even start getting some of our Samee customers on an interview as well, which I think will be good. So
I think, again, if Lorraine's willing to share that structure we talked about and the work she's done on it, because she got it, she just nailed it. Absolutely. For her and her partner really got that, and I think that has given her the foundations of her business plan.
I think that'll be
a great exercise. So.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be a good next session to have. So we've had Mick has said thanks, guys. Lorraine has said thank you, lovely session. Yeah, boss is happy, brilliant. So that's good. Someone else has said thank you. Paul has said sorry was late in another meeting, but I'll go back through. Sounded good what I saw, so that's good. So brilliant, wonderful. Okay, so I think that about wraps it up. Anyone watching on replay, you've got the email address, send through the questions, and obviously we'll keep these posted, and we'll keep going. We'll have one next Thursday, and we'll post details a bit later to let you know what's coming in. But from
actually, Rick, if people want to go to my website, there's some little videos on there of some of this being used in a dental situation, but the same rules apply. But if you want to go and watch those videos, they're free. You can watch them. They're on YouTube. Actually, I've got a YouTube channel, so if they go to my website, just Google profitable conversation, it'll come up, and there's some videos on there and tips already for free on there. So
brilliant, wonderful. Right, to Facebook, then we'll say goodbye and thank you ever so much.
Thanks, Ricky. Take care. Bye bye.